Welcome to Inner Moonlight. Tonight we explore the quiet truths that must be embraced before real change can unfold. You may think transformation begins with action, with new plans, better habits, stronger willpower. But the deepest changes don't come from effort. They begin with awareness, with soft honesty, with truths you've been carrying for years, waiting to be seen. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're here now, listening, I'd love to know, where are you tuning in from, and what time is it where you are? Share it in the comments below, and let's create a circle of stillness across the world. Allow the noise to fade, the stillness to bloom, and together, we'll begin. You are not here to be fixed. You are not broken. But something inside you may be ready to change, to let go of what you've outgrown, to step into a gentler truth, to see yourself clearly for the first time in a long while. Not with criticism, not with shame, but with presence. The Buddha taught that everything arises from causes and conditions. What you are feeling now didn't come from nowhere. Your habits, your thoughts, your emotional patterns, they are echoes of the past, but they are not you, and they are not forever. Before you can change anything, you must see it clearly. You must stop running from the mirror. You must sit beside the part of you that hurts, that fears, that hides, and listen. Not to punish, but to understand. Because nothing transforms until it is met with attention. Not forced attention, gentle attention. The kind that says, I see you, and from that seeing, something new becomes possible. You do not need to solve everything tonight, but you can begin. You can soften the inner resistance, you can let down the shield, and you can rest in the awareness that change is already happening. Not because you are striving, but because you are listening. Let your breath slow. Let your body relax into stillness. The journey you are about to take is not one of striving, but of remembering, returning, releasing. Because before you can change, you must embrace the truths that make change possible. And tonight, we will do just that. Together, slowly, softly, one truth at a time. Change doesn't begin with effort. It doesn't begin with declarations, with sudden plans, with lists written in anxious handwriting at midnight. True change begins with one quiet act, seeing clearly, without filters, without judgment, without flinching. The Buddha taught that awareness is the foundation of transformation, that what we do not observe will continue to shape us without our consent. You may have tried to force yourself into new habits. You may have chased fresh starts like the changing seasons. But until you truly see what's happening inside, nothing will shift. Not deeply, not lastingly. You cannot build something new while you are still blind to what you're standing on. Pause now and notice your breath. You're not fixing it, you're not judging it, you're just seeing it. That simple act, awareness without interference, is the very first step in any real change. It's how we begin to relate to ourselves differently. It's how we stop reacting automatically and start responding with intention. You might want to change something in your life, your relationships, your inner voice, your patterns of escape or fear. But ask gently, have you really seen them yet? Or have you only fought against them? Change begins not with battle, but with acknowledgement. To change the way you speak to yourself, you must first notice the voice that's already there. To change the way you love, you must first witness the defenses around your heart. To change the way you move through the world, you must see how you've been standing still. This kind of seeing is not aggressive, it's intimate, it's patient. It says, let me sit with this. It says, I'm willing to see the whole picture, even the parts I've hidden. And in that moment, a new possibility opens, not because you've forced it, but because you've made space. Awareness clears the soil. You don't need to plant anything tonight. You don't need to grow overnight. You just need to tend to the inner ground. Pull away the weeds of denial. Gently brush away the dust of distraction. Sit in the center of your own life, eyes open, heart soft. This is the kind of change that lasts. Because it is not driven by fear, it's born from clarity. Let your breath remind you how natural change is. Inhale, something new. Exhale, something released. You are not stagnant. You are not stuck. You are simply awakening to what has been true all along. And from that awakening, change begins. Not as effort, but as a quiet unfolding. You cannot heal what you refuse to feel. This is one of the most tender and difficult truths you'll ever face on the path to change, because it asks you to do the very thing you've spent years avoiding. It asks you to turn toward the pain, not to relive it, not to dramatize it, but to finally let it speak. The Buddha taught that suffering arises when we resist what is. When we suppress emotion, when we deny experience, when we armor ourselves against the truth of our own heart. We think that pushing our feelings away will protect us. But what we push down only grows heavier. What we avoid only gains power. Your sadness, your anger, your disappointment, they are not mistakes. They are not flaws. They are signals. They are messengers. And healing begins the moment you say, "I'm willing to listen." Maybe you've buried old grief. Maybe there are parts of your life you've never truly allowed yourself to mourn. Lost relationships, abandoned dreams, pain you minimized because it was easier than admitting it mattered. But here's the gentle truth. Those feelings are still with you, not to hurt you, but to guide you. They linger because they were never acknowledged fully, because they were never held in the warm light of awareness. And until they are felt, they will continue to pull at you quietly, from beneath the surface, from the corners of your thoughts, from the edges of your breath. To feel is not to fall apart. To feel is to reconnect with the intelligence of your body, the wisdom of your heart. When you cry, you are not breaking, you are releasing. When you sit with sorrow, you are not giving up, you are showing up. There is no timeline for this, no rush. The invitation is simply to turn inward, gently, and notice what has been asking for your attention. Maybe it's a memory, maybe it's an old wound, maybe it's just a heaviness you've never paused long enough to name. Tonight you are safe to feel it. You are safe to stop running. You are safe to breathe into that place inside you that has waited so long for compassion. Let the breath guide you. Inhale, here I am. Exhale, I allow what is. You cannot heal what you do not feel. But when you feel fully, without judgment, healing begins on its own. The heart knows how to mend. It only needs your permission to open. And tonight you offer that. Not all at once, but gently, softly, one breath at a time. You are not who you think you are. Not entirely, not permanently, not inevitably. One of the most freeing truths on the path of change is this: your identity is not fixed. The stories you've told about yourself, the labels, the roles, the quiet assumptions, are not the truth. They're just habits of thought, reflections of the past. They may have felt real for a long time, but that doesn't mean they are you. The Buddha taught the doctrine of anatta, or non-self. Not to say you don't exist, but to remind you that the self you cling to, the one defined by history, fear, or praise, is not solid. It's a flowing process, not a static thing. Like a flame, always changing. Like a river, always moving. You are not stuck. You are not limited to the sum of your past mistakes, your old identities, your fears or failures. You are not just the shy one, the angry one, the one who never finishes what they start, the one who always needs to be strong. These are just stories. They may have helped you survive, but they are not who you are. Who you are is deeper than that. You are the one who notices those identities, the one who sees the pattern, the one who asks softly, "Is this still true?" Change begins when you question the self you've outgrown. When you realize that just because you've always been a certain way, doesn't mean you always will be. The habits of thought can dissolve, the roles can shift, the walls can soften, and something new, something more honest can emerge. But you must stop clinging to the version of yourself that feels familiar but isn't real. It's okay to let go of who you were. It's okay to leave behind the mask. It's okay to say, "I don't know exactly who I am now, but I'm willing to find out." That willingness is sacred. That space between the old and the new is where awakening begins. The mind will try to bring you back to the comfort of certainty, back to the safety of a defined identity, but you are learning to stay in the in-between, to let yourself evolve. Tonight, let the question echo gently. What stories about yourself are you ready to release? Let your breath answer. Let your stillness speak. You are not who you were. You are not only who you've been told you are becoming. And that is enough. There is something inside you that resists change, not because you're lazy, not because you're incapable, but because some part of you still clings to the familiar, even when it hurts. This is one of the most human truths on the path to transformation. We suffer often, not because of what's happening now, but because we refuse to release what no longer serves us. The Buddha named this plainly. Attachment is the root of suffering, not because we shouldn't love, not because we must live without desire, but because clinging, tight, unconscious, fearful clinging, keeps us stuck in cycles we no longer need. You may be holding on to an idea of who you were, a relationship that's already ended in spirit, even if not in name, a belief about yourself that no longer matches who you're becoming. You may be clinging not because it feels good, but because it feels known. The mind would rather suffer in familiarity than risk the unknown. But the heart knows better. The heart longs to expand, to be free, to stop gripping, to stop performing, to stop protecting old wounds by building walls that have long outlived their usefulness. Let yourself ask gently now, what am I still holding on to that is holding me back? It might be an expectation, a bitterness, a fear disguised as wisdom. It might be a habit that keeps you numb, a way of thinking that keeps you small. A story that once made sense, but now only weighs you down. Let your breath meet it. Inhale, acknowledge, exhale, release. Let go not in rebellion, but in reverence. Letting go is not forgetting, it's not erasing, it's choosing peace over control, freedom over fear. It's saying, I no longer need this to feel safe. The Buddha compared attachment to grasping a burning coal. We think it protects us, but it's what's hurting us most. Letting go isn't dramatic, it's quiet, it's internal. It happens slowly. The grip loosens, the weight shifts, and suddenly you're lighter. You may return to it a few times. That's okay. Letting go is not a one-time act, it's a practice. And tonight, you are practicing. Softly, with breath, with honesty. You are not failing when you struggle to release. You are learning to trust that you will still be whole without what you've been holding. And you will. You are, even now. It is easy to feel trapped in patterns that repeat. You may notice the same kinds of relationships showing up in your life, the same thoughts looping quietly in the background, the same responses pulling away, shutting down, overreaching, overthinking, and you wonder, why does this keep happening? The Buddha's answer is simple yet profound. Until you are aware of the pattern will continue to lead you. We live by unconscious scripts we never chose but inherited through childhood, through trauma, through culture. And unless we bring them into the light of awareness, they write our future for us. This is not punishment. This is nature. What is unseen will continue to move beneath the surface. And so the sixth truth you must embrace before change can happen is this. Awareness is the antidote to repetition. You cannot change what you are unwilling to see. But the moment you notice a pattern with clarity and without shame, something begins to shift. You create space between the stimulus and the response. You open a window in a room you thought was sealed shut. Notice now what feels familiar. That moment when someone pulls away and you instinctively chase. That inner critic that wakes up every time you feel proud. That discomfort when things go well, followed by the urge to sabotage. None of this is evidence that you are broken. It's evidence that your unconscious mind has been trying to protect you in the only ways it knows how. But now you are learning to see. The Buddha described this as sati, mindfulness, the act of watching the mind without getting caught in it. You see the thought, the feeling, the impulse, and instead of reacting, you breathe. You watch. You ask, is this true? Is this useful? Is this necessary? That pause is sacred. It's where freedom begins. You don't have to control the pattern. You only have to become so familiar with it that it no longer controls you. The more often you observe it, the weaker its grip becomes. The script starts to unravel. And slowly a new choice appears where once there was only reaction. You may not catch it every time. That's okay. Awareness is not about perfection, it's about presence. And presence is powerful enough to interrupt the oldest of patterns. Tonight, rest in that power. You don't have to fix everything at once. You only have to keep looking gently. Keep noticing what repeats. And in that noticing, know this. You are no longer asleep inside your life. You are waking up. And the patterns, they're just echoes now. There is a point in the journey where you realize no one is coming to rescue you. Not a partner, not a teacher, not a job or a breakthrough or some perfect version of the future. It's a sobering moment, but also a sacred one. Because it's in that moment that your true freedom begins. The Buddha didn't offer salvation. He didn't offer to take away anyone's suffering. What he offered was something far more powerful, a path, a lamp, a way to walk. And one core truth at its center: you must walk the path yourself. This is not punishment, it's empowerment. No one else can do your inner work. No one else can feel your feelings, face your patterns, or decide what kind of life you will lead from here. People can walk beside you, they can support you, but they cannot carry you. And strangely, that truth is not heavy. It's a release. It means you don't have to wait anymore. You don't have to wait for someone to finally understand you, for the apology to arrive, for the circumstances to shift. You can begin now. Not because everything is perfect, but because the power to change was never outside you. It has always been within. Ask yourself gently, where have I been waiting to be rescued? Maybe you've held on to the idea that one day someone will come along and make the pain make sense. Maybe you've been waiting for permission to leave, to start over, to become more of yourself. But you are the one you've been waiting for. You are the one who knows what hurts. You are the one who knows what needs to change. You are the one who can begin again, here in this breath, with this simple act of noticing. The Buddha said, "No one saves us but ourselves. No one can and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path." And when you embrace that truth, you stop outsourcing your power. You stop hoping someone else will deliver you to the life you're meant to live. You pick up the thread of your own journey, however tangled it may be, and begin weaving something new. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be clear. You only need to take one step. A softer word toward yourself, a longer breath before reacting, a willingness to see the truth instead of numbing it. These small acts of ownership are what lead to change. Not waiting, not wishing, not blaming, but gently turning inward and saying, "This is mine now, and I'm ready." Tonight, let yourself rest in that readiness. Let go of the fantasy that someone else will do it for you. You don't need a savior. You only need the courage to stay with yourself. And you already have that, even now. Sometimes the heaviest weight we carry isn't sadness or regret. It's resentment. Old pain wrapped in silence. Old wounds sealed with stubbornness. And while it may seem like protection, resentment never protects. It only prolongs the ache. The Buddha understood this well. He taught that holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. Tonight's truth is gentle but powerful. Forgiveness is not for others, it's for you. You may think you can't forgive because they haven't changed, because they haven't apologized, because they haven't acknowledged what they did. But forgiveness isn't about them. Forgiveness is what happens when you decide that your peace matters more than your pain. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting. It does not mean excusing harmful behavior. It means setting yourself free. It means choosing not to carry the past into every future moment. It means loosening the grip of a story that has defined you for too long. Ask yourself softly now, who am I still carrying? Maybe it's a parent who didn't know how to love you the way you needed, a friend who left without explanation, a partner whose words linger long after they've gone, or maybe the one you haven't forgiven is you. That's often the hardest one. Forgiving yourself for the choices you made before you knew better, for the moments when you abandoned your own heart, for staying too long, for not staying long enough. But all healing begins with truth, and the truth is, you did the best you could with what you knew, who you were, and what you carried at the time. And now you know more. Now you are ready to soften, to say, I no longer want to be ruled by what hurt me. The Buddha spoke of karuna, compassion. Compassion not as sentiment, but as action. A decision to hold pain gently, rather than grip it tightly. To offer grace not only to others, but to yourself. Forgiveness is that action. It is not always quick, not always clean, but it is always liberating. You may have to forgive someone in layers over time. You may have to forgive again each time the pain resurfaces. That's not failure, that's the practice. That's how the heart stretches. So tonight, whisper this softly. I release the hope that the past could be different. That is the beginning of freedom. You don't need to rush. You only need to begin. Not for their sake, for yours. Because your inner peace is too precious to hand over to a ghost. Because the person you are becoming deserves a lighter heart. Let it be so. There is a space between thought and awareness, and in that space lies your freedom. Most people live caught in their thoughts, noticing them, but also believing them, reacting to them, becoming them. But the Buddha offered a deeper truth, one that changes everything once you feel its reality. You are not your thoughts. This is not just philosophy, it's practice, it's freedom. A thought arises, I'm not good enough, I'll never change, I'm behind, I've failed again. And without awareness, we don't just hear those thoughts, we become them. We wear them like a second skin. We make decisions based on them. We form identities around them. But you are not your thoughts. You are the one who notices them. You are the quiet presence beneath the noise. You are the awareness that sees the clouds, not the clouds themselves. The Buddha described this with stunning simplicity. Just as a man who stands at a river's edge watches the flow of water without being carried away, so should the mindful observe the mind. And what happens when you begin to observe instead of identify? Everything softens. You stop reacting automatically. You stop feeding the same narratives. You begin to feel the difference between thought and truth. A thought may arise, I'll never be free of this, and instead of believing it, you pause. You breathe. You say, that's a thought. You don't argue with it. You don't resist it. You don't follow it down the same worn path. You simply watch it pass, and pass it will. Because all thoughts do. No matter how loud, how convincing, how cruel, every thought fades given time and stillness. Tonight, let yourself rest in that stillness, not because your mind is empty, but because your identity is no longer tangled in every voice that speaks within it. You may notice the mind chatter still arises. That's not failure, that's natural. The mind thinks just like the heart beats and the lungs breathe, but you are not the heartbeat, you are not the breath. You are the witness, the one who sees, the one who returns again and again to presence. This awareness is not passive, it's the most powerful force in transformation. When you stop believing every thought, you begin to hear something else, something deeper, something true. You begin to hear the quiet wisdom beneath the noise. The clarity that says, you are already whole. The compassion that says, you don't have to believe everything you think. The peace that whispers, this moment is enough. So tonight, as you lie still, let your thoughts come and go. Let them be weather. Let them drift without trying to fix or follow. And with every breath, return to the only thing that's ever truly been yours, your awareness. It has always been waiting. Now it welcomes you home. There is a quiet moment in every transformation when the body tenses, the mind resists, and everything in you whispers, this is too much. That moment is not a sign to stop. It is a sign that you are close to change, because discomfort is the doorway to growth. The Buddha never promised that the path would be easy. What he offered was a path through suffering, not around it. He knew that the places we avoid, the uncomfortable emotions, the truths we don't want to face, the patterns we'd rather deny, are precisely where the most profound healing waits. Discomfort isn't your enemy, it's your guide. It signals that something old is unraveling, something protective is loosening, something new is being asked of you. And just like a muscle must stretch before it strengthens, the soul must soften before it can expand. So many people give up just before the shift. They feel anxiety and they run. They feel shame and they hide. They feel uncertainty and they freeze. But discomfort doesn't mean something is wrong. It often means something important is waking up. What if you didn't need to escape your discomfort? What if you could stay with it, just for one more breath? The Buddha taught that all feelings are impermanent, even pain, even fear, even the clenching tightness that seems unbearable. It will pass if you let it move. If you stop resisting and start breathing, if you stop judging and start observing, let discomfort become a meditation. Where do you feel it in your body? What is it pointing you toward? What story is it asking you to question? Growth doesn't happen in comfort. Comfort reinforces the known. Growth lives in the unknown, in the awkward silence, in the shaky step forward, in the breath that says, this is hard, but I am still here, and you are still here, still breathing, still showing up. That is enough. You don't have to force growth. You only have to stay awake through the discomfort that arises when change begins. Because this discomfort, it's not forever, it's a threshold. And on the other side is something new. Not because you fought your way there, but because you stayed present long enough to cross through. So tonight, if you feel something stir inside, a fear, a longing, a pain, don't rush to soothe it. Just notice. Just allow. Just breathe. You are strong enough to stay with what's real. And what's real will not break you. It will shape you. It will soften you. It will carry you forward one breath at a time. There's a quiet law at the center of every inner journey, and it goes like this. What you avoid controls you. The Buddha understood this with crystal clarity. He taught that whatever we resist, whatever we refuse to see, feel, or name, does not disappear. It settles into the corners of the mind, into the shape of our reactions, into the way we speak, love, and live. And over time, it begins to steer our lives from the shadows. Avoidance feels safe at first. It gives you a moment of relief, a breath of escape, the comfort of pretending all is well. But underneath, the cost is high. Avoidance is a prison that looks like protection, and the bars are built from silence. You may avoid your anger, so it leaks out sideways, sharp and subtle, in sarcasm or withdrawal. You may avoid your grief, so it numbs your joy, making every happiness feel distant, unreachable. You may avoid your truth, so you live a life shaped more by expectation than by authenticity. But here's the miracle. The moment you turn toward what you've been avoiding, you begin to dissolve its grip. Not because you solve it all, but because truth, when seen clearly, is far less frightening than the energy it takes to avoid it. The Buddha described this as the path of insight, the way of turning inward, not to fix yourself, but to meet yourself, gently, with breath, with space, with the understanding that awareness is not dangerous, it's healing. Ask yourself quietly now, what part of me have I been afraid to face? It could be an emotion, a memory, a choice you haven't made, a boundary you haven't held. Whatever it is, let this moment be your invitation, not to conquer it, but to sit with it, to say, I see you, and in doing so, to reclaim your power. Avoidance says, this is too much for me. Awareness says, this is part of me and I can be with it. That shift is where transformation begins. Let discomfort rise, let the old emotions breathe, let your inner landscape come into view. Not because you must map every inch tonight, but because even a glimpse begins to set you free. The pain you've buried is not your enemy, it's your teacher. And the lesson it brings is simple. You are strong enough to stay. You are brave enough to feel. You are ready to stop running. So rest in that readiness now. No more avoiding. No more pretending, only the breath, the moment, the truth. And with that, peace begins to return, not because everything is easy, but because nothing is hidden. We've been taught to believe that change must be hard, that it requires force, discipline, and struggle. Push harder, try more, control your way into a better self. But what if that's the very thing keeping you stuck? The 12th truth on the path to transformation is this. Real change requires compassion, not force. The Buddha knew this intimately. His teachings were never rooted in pressure. They were rooted in understanding. He didn't shout at people to wake up. He invited them to notice, to soften, to observe their suffering, not to condemn themselves, but to see clearly the cause. And when you see the cause of your suffering with compassion, the change begins naturally. Not because you push, because you allow, because you understand. Force makes the ego louder. It triggers resistance. It turns healing into a war against yourself. You don't need to fight your habits. You need to listen to what they're trying to protect. When you meet a part of yourself with kindness, that part begins to relax. The overeating, the avoidance, the overthinking. These are not enemies. They are outdated forms of self-protection. They formed in a younger time when you had fewer tools. And now with awareness, you can offer those parts of you something they've never had before. Gentle presence. The voice of force says, why are you like this? The voice of compassion says, of course you feel this way. Let's understand it together. Which voice creates space for change? Which one builds trust? Let your breath answer. Let the body soften as you ask, what would happen if I stopped fighting myself? Just sit with the question. Feel the space it opens. You do not have to earn transformation through self-violence. You do not have to break yourself to grow. You only have to stop turning away from what is true. The most lasting shifts come not when we judge our shadows, but when we learn to hold them gently. When we extend compassion not just to others, but to every frightened or confused part of our own being. Let tonight be a practice of gentleness. When judgment arises, notice it, then soften. When impatience rises, notice it, then soften. You don't need to rush your healing. You don't need to scream at the soil to grow the seed. You only need to water it, to sit in the sun, to trust that what is nurtured with compassion will unfold in its time. This is the quiet path, not quick but real, not dramatic but deep. And you right now are walking it, breath by breath, with grace. Sometimes we treat emotions like enemies, something to conquer, suppress, or fix. We label them as good or bad, useful or dangerous. But the truth is simpler and far more healing. Emotions are messengers, not enemies. The Buddha never taught us to suppress emotion. He taught us to observe it, to sit with it, to understand its nature, its movement, and its message. Each emotion, even the ones we fear most, anger, sadness, shame, fear, carries wisdom if we are willing to listen. Anger says, a boundary has been crossed. Sadness says, something meaningful has changed. Fear says, you're near something unfamiliar, something unknown. Even numbness, that quiet absence, is a messenger. It says, I'm overwhelmed, I've been carrying too much, I need space to feel again. But when we reject these emotions, we reject the intelligence they bring. We distract ourselves, we shut down, we shame ourselves for feeling, and in doing so, we miss the opportunity for healing. What if, instead of judging your emotions, you invited them in like old friends? What if you sat down with your sadness and said, tell me what you need me to hear? What if you asked your anxiety, what are you trying to protect me from? Emotions are energy in motion. They rise, they move, they pass, but only when we stop resisting them. Only when we allow them to move through the body, through the breath, through the space of quiet attention. The Buddha spoke of the middle way, not indulgence, not suppression, just presence, noticing, feeling, allowing. You don't need to drown in your emotions, but you do need to listen to them. Tonight, let this be a space of emotional listening. Let whatever arises come without labels. If grief stirs, let it. If warmth returns, welcome it. If you feel nothing at all, notice that too. You are not doing this wrong, you are feeling, and that is sacred. Each emotion holds a message, but the message cannot be delivered if the door is locked. Tonight, open the door, breathe. Let the feeling rise and fall like a wave. You don't need to act on it, you don't need to make sense of it. You only need to allow it space. Emotions are not here to hurt you, they are here to move you toward truth. And you, just by being present, are already listening. You are not your past, but your past has shaped you. It has carved the valleys of your thinking, the curves of your heart, the ways you speak to yourself in silence. And while it doesn't define you, it does live within you until you meet it with clarity. The Buddha taught that memory is not who we are. It is a collection of impressions shaped by time, mood, and perspective. But the truth is this: your past shaped you, but it doesn't define you. So many people live in a kind of quiet imprisonment, replaying the same scenes over and over. The mistake they made, the love they lost, the version of themselves they were before it all changed. They live in a room with mirrors, unable to see the doorway. But the door is there, and it opens with awareness. The past will rise in the mind. It always does. But how you relate to it, that changes everything. You don't have to rewrite the story. You don't have to erase the pain. You only have to ask, what am I still carrying that I don't need anymore? A belief about your worth? A decision made in fear? A voice that doesn't belong to you but still speaks through your thoughts? Let tonight be a soft reckoning. Not a battle. Just a meeting with what has been, and a gentle decision about what you'll carry forward. The Buddha reminded us, each morning we are born again. What we do today is what matters most. The past is not your prison, it is your path. It brought you here, to this breath, to this awareness, to this willingness to begin again. And the more you hold your past with compassion, the less it holds you with fear. There is no shame in where you've been. There is only meaning to be found, if you choose to see it. The past shaped your edges, but now you are the one who decides how to soften them. You are the one who chooses what becomes wisdom and what is ready to be released. You are not a repetition. You are a response. You are a becoming. Tonight, feel the quiet power of that. You can remember and still be free. You can carry the lesson and leave the weight. You can bless what was without letting it define what will be, and in that choice, you begin again. Here, now, gently. You've tried to think your way to peace, to analyze your patterns, map your fears, understand every emotion from every angle, and still the restlessness lingers. Still, peace feels distant. That's because one of the quietest truths in your transformation is this: you can't think your way to peace. The Buddha did not awaken through thought, he awakened through stillness, through presence, through direct experience of the mind and body as they are, not as they should be. Peace, he taught, is not found in mental perfection. It's found in surrender. The mind is clever, it wants answers, it wants to solve. But peace is not a riddle, it is a state of being. It is what arises when you stop reaching, when you stop trying to win the inner war. Thinking has its place. It can guide, reflect, plan, but healing happens in the body, in the breath, in the silence where words fall away and something deeper emerges. Let yourself feel into that now. Drop below thought. Notice the rise and fall of your breath. Notice the warmth or coolness of your hands. Notice the simple fact of being here. That is presence, and it is more powerful than any solution your mind can invent. When peace arises, it does so gently, not because you earned it, but because you stopped pushing it away with noise. It arrives like the tide, slow, quiet, persistent. It arrives when you say, I don't need to figure this out tonight. It arrives when you close the book, silence the questions, and let your body speak. Your breath will tell you what the mind cannot. Your stillness will hold what your thoughts cannot fix. Peace is not the absence of thought. It is the space beyond thought, the space your awareness has always known. The Buddha spoke of this as nirodha, the cessation, the cooling of the mental fires, not erasure, just the natural quiet that comes when the mind stops clinging, even for a moment. Tonight, let go of the need to understand. Let go of the story you've been telling yourself about what must change before you can rest. Let yourself drop into being, into breath, into now. Peace lives there, not in answers but in acceptance. Not in control, but in contact with this moment, exactly as it is. And in that moment you'll find what all the thinking has been searching for: stillness, safety, home. There is a fear that arises when we stand at the edge of change, a quiet trembling, a whisper that says, but if I let go, what will I be? That fear is natural, because the next truth is this: letting go is an act of courage. We tend to associate courage with force, breaking through, standing tall, pushing past limits. But real courage, the kind the Buddha taught, is often soft. It's the courage to release, to unclench, to open your hand and allow what was never truly yours to fall away. Letting go isn't weakness, it's clarity. It's saying, I no longer need to carry this. And since sometimes what you're letting go of isn't even a person or situation, it's an old identity, a role you've outgrown, a pattern of self-criticism that you used to believe kept you safe. To change, you must be willing to shed. Like a tree letting go of its leaves, like the ocean releasing its wave. Letting go is not giving up, it's making space. You are not betraying your past by releasing it. You are honoring what it gave you by not needing to cling to it anymore. But yes, it takes courage. Courage to sit in the emptiness that follows release. Courage to wait in that quiet space before something new has fully formed. The Buddha called this sunyata, emptiness not as void, but as openness, potential, the fertile ground where transformation grows. And tonight, maybe you feel it, that tug to let go of something, even if you don't know what comes next. That old burden you've been shouldering out of habit, that guilt you've carried longer than you needed to, that version of yourself you've tried so hard to hold together. Let it go. Let yourself unravel, just a little. Let the breath carry something away with each exhale. It doesn't have to be all at once. Letting go is a process, but it begins with a single moment of willingness. A soft yes to freedom, a small act of trust in the unknown. You don't need to see what comes after. You only need to know that your soul is ready for less weight. So rest tonight in that readiness. You are brave enough to release, brave enough to be without the old armor, brave enough to become something new. You've spent so long searching for answers, for peace, for something out there to make you whole. But the Buddha's voice cuts through that searching like a bell in the dark. Everything you need is already within you. This is not a metaphor. It's not an inspiring phrase to tape to your mirror. It's a truth so simple, so overlooked, that we pass it by again and again as we chase teachers, books, goals, and systems. All the while, The quiet wisdom inside you waits patiently to be heard. The Buddha taught that the true refuge is not outside, not in doctrine, not in authority. The true refuge is in your own awakened mind, your own breath, your own awareness. It has always been there. But the world will try to convince you otherwise. It will tell you that you are not enough without something else, without more confidence, more clarity, more success, more validation. It will keep you searching, and searching, and searching, until one day you stop. And in that stillness you hear it, the soft whisper beneath the noise. I'm here. I've always been here. You don't need to be more. You need to be present. Because the qualities you're seeking, peace, clarity, strength, compassion, they're not achievements. They're your nature, waiting to be uncovered beneath the layers of conditioning. Think of a muddy pool. The water isn't destroyed by the mud. It's just obscured. When the mud settles, the water becomes clear again. You are that water. The clarity is still there. You don't need to find it. You need only to let the dust settle. Let the noise quiet. Let the belief that you're broken fall away. What remains is not emptiness, it's truth. It's self-trust. It's enoughness. So tonight, stop reaching. Let your searching rest. Let the breath be your teacher. Let stillness guide you home. You are not missing anything. You are remembering everything. And with each breath, you come closer to that quiet center that has always known the way. Growth is not a straight line. It doesn't move cleanly from one step to the next like a ladder. It spirals, it loops, it returns. You will revisit the same feelings, the same lessons, the same doubts, but each time with new eyes, with a deeper understanding, with a heart that's a little softer and a little stronger. This is the next truth to embrace. Growth is not linear, it spirals. The Buddha understood this well. He described the path not as a highway, but as a series of moments. Cycles of forgetting and remembering, falling and returning, each time closer to the center, closer to truth. You may wonder why you're still struggling with the same thoughts, why you still react the same way, why you keep meeting the same inner walls, even after all your work. But pause. Notice what's different this time. Maybe you catch the thought sooner. Maybe you're more honest about your reaction. Maybe you hold yourself with just a little more compassion than you once could. That is growth. It's not always visible. It doesn't always feel like progress, but it is. You are not who you were the last time this pattern arose. You are meeting it from a new place, with new awareness, with a wider view. Healing moves like the breath, in, out, forward, back, a wave rising and falling, but each time shaping the shore. Let go of the expectation that you should be over this by now. Let go of the pressure to arrive somewhere permanent. There is no final version of you. There is only unfolding. Be patient with your return. Be gentle with your revisiting. Even the lotus rises again and again through the mud. Let your spiral path be sacred. Let it remind you that every return is an invitation, not a punishment, not a failure, just another step inward. Tonight, as you lie in the quiet, feel the spiral of your own becoming. Not flawed, not broken, just human, just learning. And each breath brings you closer to center. There is a moment on every path of transformation where the mind quiets, the struggle softens, and a deeper truth emerges. Suffering ends where acceptance begins. This doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean settling or staying small. It means seeing things clearly and allowing them to be what they are, at least for now, without resistance. The Buddha taught that much of our pain does not come from what is happening. It comes from our refusal to let it be. From the tension we hold around our experience, from the inner war we wage against what we wish were different. But peace doesn't come from fixing everything. It comes from allowing what is to exist, even if we don't yet understand it, even if it's still tender, even if we're still healing. Acceptance is not apathy. It's awareness without judgment. It says, this is happening, this is real, and I can meet it with grace. Imagine standing in the rain, flinching, curling inward, trying to stay dry. That's resistance. Now imagine standing in that same rain, shoulders down, eyes open, breath steady. That's acceptance. The rain doesn't stop, but your suffering eases. Acceptance doesn't mean you'll never take action. It means you stop fighting the moment, and from that stillness a wise response can arise. Right now ask yourself, where am I still resisting? Maybe it's your current stage of life, a relationship that's shifting, a feeling that keeps resurfacing. What would happen if, Just for tonight, you stopped trying to change it, and instead just sat with it. Not forever. Just now. Just one breath. Let yourself feel the relief of not needing to win the battle. Let your shoulders drop. Let your breath deepen. Let the truth be exactly what it is. Suffering says, I can't bear this. Acceptance says, I am bearing this, and I can continue. The Buddha called this the cessation of suffering, not by removing life's difficulties, but by removing our refusal to meet them. Tonight, you are practicing that. Not by force, by soft presence, by choosing to sit with what's real instead of what's ideal. And in doing so, you remember this: nothing needs to be perfect before you find peace. Peace lives in the stillness of what is. Now you've walked gently through each of the 10 truths. You haven't rushed, you haven't forced. You've breathed with them, rested with them, and let them settle into the quiet corners of your awareness. And here, at the edge of sleep, we arrive at the last and most peaceful truth. Rest in truth, and change will follow. Not effort, not willpower, not perfection, just presence. The Buddha never asked his followers to be extraordinary. He asked them to see clearly, to be here, to stop grasping, stop hiding, and instead allow truth to be their refuge. Not as a weapon, as a shelter, as something solid and trustworthy beneath all the chaos and noise. When you rest in truth, you no longer need to chase transformation. It comes on its own. The layers begin to fall away, the patterns begin to dissolve. You are no longer spinning in reaction, you are rooted in awareness. This is not the sleep of avoidance, it's the sleep that follows an honest day. A sleep that says, I met myself tonight, and I did so with kindness. Let your breath slow now. Let everything soften. Let the truths you've uncovered settle like sand beneath clear water. You don't need to remember them all. You only need to let them live in you. Truth doesn't disappear when you sleep. It waits, quiet and calm, like moonlight on still water. You've already done enough, you've already heard enough, you've already begun. Tonight, change doesn't look like action, it looks like surrender. You are allowed to rest now. Let your body feel safe. Let your thoughts grow slow. Let the last thing you feel before sleep be softness. You have everything you need within you. Now.